Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Saturday. Yeah, Saturday, November 8th, 2025, and I'm coming at you live from my bed. This is, I think I'm just going to call it the BedCast. I don't know. I'm not the best at naming things. Um, so yeah, that's what this is going to be called. It's going to be called the BedCast. I don't know exactly where it's going to go. Usually, though, when I'm freestyling, when I'm just talking, we end up in one of two places. We're either talking about the Jews or we're talking about jerking off. And yeah, we're either talking about the Jays, talking about Jews or jerking. That's usually the way this goes. And in my defense, and I don't even know if this is a defense of myself, but those are the two things. Those are the two things that I think about, the most. Um, I'm either scheming on how I can jerk off, you know what I mean? Being like, all right, my roommate's here. I don't know. Is he going to go to his girlfriend's? How are we going to do this? How can I tactically sneak a sock into the bathroom so I can bust a nut? I'm either scheming like a Jew, think about how I'm going to jerk off, or I'm thinking about the Jews and their schemes. It's it's a 50-50 shot. I almost never think about anything else, academically, in terms of my life, just nothing. Really nothing else goes on in my head. And I guess that makes me an expert in those two things. I'm a student of the game. I'm a student of the game when it comes to the Jews and jerk it off. Those are two, I mean, in the year of our Lord 2025, those are probably the two biggest, you know what I mean? If you want to get popular on the internet, you got to be talking about one or the other. Or, I guess in my case, you know what I mean? I've kind of created a new genre. You know what I mean? You have like the jerking off shows. Um, and that's like Matt and Shane's, obviously, that whatever Trevor Wallace's podcast is called, that's the shittiest thing I've ever listened to before. But that one, um, and then obviously you have your J podcasts. I'd say that if I had to define the two groups of podcasts that exist now, some people might say it's left wing versus right wing. And maybe jerking off is left wing and Jews are right wing or vice versa. I don't really know, but I do feel like those are the two main streams of podcasts, or the main genres. It's either jerking off or the Jews. There's really there's not a whole lot in between that. Oh, and then the other one is like murder. Those are the three, and I guess fake intellectualism. But to me, that falls into the Jew side of things, because the intellectuals, they always want to talk about the J's. Either the intellectual is a J or the intellectual has some thoughts, some opinions on the J's. So, and beyond that, the whole crime, it's not even crime. It's just chick shit. That's the third genre, I'd say. Men, we have our two genres, and then there's the one chick genre, which is crime. And even if that's not, the topic of the chick podcast, it's the general vibe that's going on. You know what I mean? They're listening to it to, I don't know, indulge in a fantasy or whatever. Like that's what chick podcasts are. Besides who Brittany Broski is the female Shane Gillis, where she's funny. I know that chick is funny. My sister listens to her, so I know she's funny. But like, she's like, chicks find her funny, which I'm not saying that means she's not funny. I would never say women don't have a sense of humor. I would never say such an evil, misogynistic thing. But it's like, I'm just never gonna find that funny because I'm not a chick, right? It's kind of the same thing with Shane Gillis. I'm sure there is women that find Shane Gillis funny, but he's a dude. He's a man's man. He's a man. It's funny to call Shane Gillis a man's man because he's just like he's a beanbag that's quit. I I guess I don't know the guy literally at all. I only listened to his podcast calling him a man's man. It's like he quit the army, he quit football, he quit everything he ever did just to be like a a beanbag that tells Down syndrome jokes. Which I mean, at this stage of American, you know, history, I guess we're living in history. I guess everyone's always living in history, but in this stage of America, most dudes are beanbags. Most guys are content to just be a beanbag, to just become the the thing that just lays there all day. Most dudes are content to do that, including me. I am a beanbag. And then the dudes that aren't the beanbags, they're not better at all in any way, shape, or form. They're just like people who don't have an identity at all, and who don't really have an idea of what masculinity is, but they're trying to be masculine. That's the other side. And I would argue being a beanbag in a lot of ways, it's more masculine. Just being a beanbag and being content with that fact, that's a very masculine thing to do. Just being like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna like not move ever. And I'm just, whenever I feel an emotion, I'm just gonna shove it deep down, just as far as it can go down into the back of my brain, and I'm just gonna be a beanbag. And I'm full beanbag right now. I'm full. I wouldn't say snug as a bug in a rug. It's kind of tough to do that when you're recording a podcast in a bed. Um, but I'd say I'm beanbagged out right now. I got at least I'm rocking 3 to 4 chins, I'd say. More chins than a Chinese sweatshop, whatever the saying is. That's how many I've got going on. Some serious rolls. It kind of looks like the ocean or like a sand dune or something like that. That's kind of what my that's kind of what my neck chin area looks like right now. And I didn't have much of a chin to begin with in the first place. Um, but now I got 3 chins, dude. If I could combine my double chin, this is this is something we got to figure out, dude. It would be like the male version of a BBL is to be like somehow take like the tissue from your double chin and like make your regular chin even longer. You know what I mean? Like with a BBL, they take fat from a chick's stomach or whatever. Or I guess there are some dudes with BBLs. I have that is one of my favorite genres on Instagram. Is gay black dudes with BBLs and like beards and fucking fades and stuff, dude. That's one of my favorite groups of people that seems to only exist on the Instagram. Is a is a black dude with just like just like the definition of androgyny, where it's like it's a black dude. He's got like a beard, big ass beard. You know what I mean? Looking like James Harden or whatever. A lineup, a fresh ass cut dude with the fade on it. But then he's got like those big ass, like ghetto girl eyelashes on and shit. The biggest ass you've ever seen in your entire fucking life. It's one of my favorite groups of people on Instagram. I love seeing them. There's obviously the most famous one, Saucy Santana. But then there's also this guy, I don't know if his name is Courtney, but he has like a big ass chain that says Courtney on it. And it's not like, how chicks get those necklaces where it's like, it says like Jessica or whatever in cursive, and it's just like a little like pendant, or I guess it's like part of like the actual link of the necklace. You guys know what I mean. But it's like not that at all, dude. It's like a 90s rapper like iced out fucking chain that just says Courtney on it. And he's like just seeing him, and he's bouncing his titties and stuff, and he's wearing a crop top. And a lot of these a lot of these black dudes with BBLs, they dress like white women at like a Nashville bachelorette party, where they'll wear like a pink like fringe crop top or whatever it's called. Trying to act like I don't know what it's called. I know exactly. Yeah, they're wearing a Louis Vuitton 2016 women's crop top. No, I know exactly what it's called. But that's how they dress, dude. Like with the shitty like rhinestone cowboy boots on. God, I love them. It's one of my I need to see more of it. And yeah, there's a fair amount of them. on the gram that you can find, you know. That's what my algorithm is. It's either just blatant anti-Semitism or black dudes with big fat fake asses. Just like comically large asses. And it's not even that's not even the funny part. It's just like the mishmash of all of it together. You know what I mean? They look like Dr. Seuss characters or something like that, where it's like, this is a Trofellomelephant or whatever Dr. Seuss came up with. But like that's what these dudes look like. And they're just so funny. And I don't know what they do to get tits. Because they don't have like Saucy Santana doesn't have tits. But like he also has tits at the same time. It's a mesmerizing, confusing thing. It's Schrodinger's tits, dude. If you don't know Saucy Santana, look up Saucy Santana. Uh, but he has tits and he doesn't have them at the same time. Like he has this song that goes, it's like bounce that ass, ho, shake them titties, and he shakes his titties. But then I've also seen him without his shirt on, and he doesn't have titties like that. Like he's flat chested. It's crazy, man. And I see some bounce when I see the tits, dude. When he's shaking his titties, it's crazy. And it's just, you know, it's something to think about like that. You know, like a lot of people, you know, quantum physicists or whatever, they'll think about how something can be a particle and a wave at the same time, dude. I'm thinking about how Saucy Santana both has tits and doesn't have tits at the same time. And I can't get it off my mind. You know, it's incredible. It's incredible to see Saucy Santana bouncing his titties, but also not just there's not even they're not pecs either. You know what I mean? Because when you get big pecs like that, like when you're not tensing your muscle, they're loose, right? They're like one. It's not the same way that like fat is loose or whatever, but they're still loose, right? Like if you have pecs or whatever, if you work out or whatever, and you get like decent sized pecs, then you kind of know, especially when they're like pumped and then you run, you can like they move up and down, right? But he doesn't even have that, dude. He has like, and he's got a little bit of man titty, but like A cups. He's got A cup man titties that bounce like they're double D's. I don't know how it's possible. It's not muscle. It's not fat. I just think Saucy Santana just believes in himself so much, and he believes so strongly in the fact that he has tits and that they bounce that it happens, you know, and it's inspiring and it's beautiful and it's confusing and it's mesmerizing. You know, that's how some people feel when they look at a Van Gogh painting. I look at a Van Gogh painting and I go, I mean, yeah, it's cool to look at, but it's not Saucy Santana. It ain't Sauce, and it ain't Courtney either. I don't. The guy's name is like Courtney Mike or something like that. He must be like some old school, uh, androgynous or whatever. But I mean, yeah, it's. I just stare at it and I go, oh my god, I get it now. Nothing is real, but everything is real. You know how some people feel when they go to like an interpretive ballet or whatever. That's how I feel looking at Saucy. Looking at Saucy bouncing them bouncies, dude. Um, yeah, I guess that's our first topic of today's bedcast. Is that second topic? I don't know. My legs are hairy as shit. I do have hairy legs, dude. Full on and sparse. They're sparsely hairy, at least up in the thigh glute region. They're sparsely haired, but the hair is incredibly long. I have like 8-inch long leg hairs, but there's only like 4 of them. And that is the type of hair that's gross to me. Like I don't even on like a chick, I don't necessarily find like armpit hair gross. Kinda, but like at the same time not. I'm not one of those people that's like she needs to not have armpit hair. Arm hair we'll have a discussion about that, but like when people just have like long, sparse, like patchy hair, that to me is where it gets gross. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting older now. You know what I mean? I'm in my early 20s. I'm unk. My death is imminent. But like as I'm getting older, obviously the hairline's going back, but what's replacing the hairline is like incredibly coarse shoulder hairs that I have. Just incredible, like wiry, almost shoulder hairs, like pubish in nature, I guess is how I describe my shoulder hairs. And like that disgusts me. Like that's the thing. Like when people look in, like people who have a lot of plastic surgery, when they look in the mirror and they just have like a normal face or whatever, and they're like, I'm disgusted with myself, I need to go get surgery. I kind of get that now because like my wiry shoulder hairs, like my and there's only like four of them, and that to me makes it all the more disgusting. Like if I was like a full on like Russian dude in the 70s, just like you know, just had the carpet all over me, then that would be one thing. That would be one situation, but that's not the situation. It's just a smattering of curly, long, dark, thick hairs. In in all reality, like if I walked around without my shirt on, people would be disgusted, but not because of that. you know but like let's just say I didn't have horrible back knee and just kind of a generally gross body. I don't think anyone would be grossed out by like four hairs on my shoulder, but like I am disgusted by that. I'm like, oh my fucking god, dude. Like I should get like laser surgery or something like that, and I do not have the fucking money for that. But I look at it and I'm like, god, that shit's like gross to me. But in reality, I feel like if most people saw that, they'd be like, yeah, I don't know. People have hair on their shoulders. But I don't know, dude. I don't know. Maybe it's just like an internet thing. It definitely is just an internet. No one in real life would give a shit at all. Um, but I do feel like that's how people, like these chicks with like gigantic lips or whatever, and like a tiny little fucking, Whoville nose that, from plastic surgery and stuff like that. Like that's how they must feel. Where they're like, it's just a thing that I don't think anyone cares about. Like I've never looked at a chick and been like fucking thin, disgusting lips, you dumb bitch. Like I don't. I've never had that feeling, and I feel like if you're a dude and you've had that feeling, you're gay. I guess. Like I don't. There's nothing else for me to say about it. Like if you look at a chick and you're like, no, I want to bang her. Her lips are too thin. You're a homosexual. And you have to come to terms with those facts. You do have to come to terms with those facts, or whatever it is. No, her nose. Her nose is too crooked. Like, yeah, if you got a beak on you, if you're out here looking like the fucking mascot of Fruit Loops, yeah, get that thing shaved down. That's a little bit more understandable. But for the most part, it's fine. I don't know. That's how I feel about chicks getting plastic surgery. And I don't mean to like be a white knight about it or whatever, where I'm like, all chicks are beautiful. You're beautiful creatures, and these men are just misogynists or whatever. It's actually a lot more gross than that. My true feelings about it are a lot more disgusting. Um, than being like, you're a beautiful queen or whatever those people say. My feeling about it is, do you have a vagina? Is it horribly misshapen? No? Okay, then you're hot. Like that's the ultimate, conclusion that I come to. And that's probably how like those white knight dudes feel. Like they're all just doing it to get laid. They're not doing it because they're like, I want these women to feel better about that. I don't care if you feel better about yourself. I don't. I guess I do care a little bit, but like, I don't know. It's not of great importance to me whether you feel great or bad about, how thick your lips are. I don't. It doesn't matter that much to me. That's a you issue. You're the only one who's gonna be able to feel. You're the only one who I don't know. I don't know what fucking point I was trying to make, but I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if you feel good or bad about it. Um, I guess I do because I don't want people getting poison injected into their face. I don't want that to happen. I don't want people getting fucking silicone implanted, to have like bigger cheekbones or whatever. I don't want that to happen, so I guess I do care, but I don't know. You gotta figure that shit out yourself. I'm not here to figure it out for you. You know, I'm just here to talk about jerking off and Jews and stuff like that. Which, speaking of jerking off, my roommate is gone for the night. I assume his Xbox is gone, so I assume he's not going to be coming back anytime soon. So I don't know. Maybe he's spending his weekends at his girlfriend's place or whatever. Either way, I'm fucking happy about it. I am very happy about the fact that he's gone, but it's gonna be a lotion party tonight, dude. I'm about to fall asleep in a pile of jizz and lotion, dude. Just do complete. Half of my body's gonna be like perfectly moisturized from the piles of lotion I used to jerk off, and then the other half is gonna be like crusty from the several loads I shot all over myself. But that's the plan tonight, you know. The plan tonight, jizz all over the place, dude. Yeah, some people say they're gonna paint the town red. I'm gonna paint the town a milky white tonight, dude. About to give this place a makeover. We're not gonna be having popcorn ceiling anymore, dude. I'm a contractor. um, but yeah, that's what I'm doing tonight. Very big plans for me. You know what I mean? That's a big deal when I can just fully fully jerk off. I'm still gonna be looking at that door, dude. I'm still gonna be like Osama bin Laden or whatever, or Saddam Hussein in the bunker, being like, is someone gonna come in that door? Um, that is gonna be the move tonight. I'm gonna be holding a tactical angle on the door, so I can jizz on my roommate if he walks in on me. I'm gonna be jerking off at the perfect angle on the door. You know what I mean? Like a SWAT team member when they're like peeking through the door and they got the gun at the certain way so they could shoot the guy in the head. That's or like that scene from what's that Denzel movie? John Q, when the SWAT team guy he's like in the vent or whatever and he's pointing the gun at Denzel. That's That's what I'm gonna be doing, dude. I'm gonna be hanging from the ceiling like Tom Cruise, just like edging myself all night long, waiting for the perfect headshot. I blinded him. That's 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 what I'm gonna be doing tonight, dude. And those are the creative ideas you have to think of when you're, just kind of lonely like that. When you ain't hanging out with people, you're like, how can I choose on as many people as possible? But I don't know. It's also getting cold outside, and when it gets cold outside, I do have. It's hard to describe. I guess it's a dichotomy of jerking off, where it's like when it gets cold outside and it's winter and the sun's only out for like 2 hours every day. I do want to jerk off 18 times a day because I'm not getting. I go outside and it's just like this incredibly depressing environment overall. And so it's like I need to stimulate my brain with dopamine or whatever. But then I have like the feeling of the opposite of like that's only going to make it worse. So, you know, it's just what you're dealing with. And that to me, I guess it's this just the shittiest part of winter. It just I get like horrible seasonal depression. And I feel like most people who hate the winter get that. And I feel like that can happen in the summer sometimes too, just like the general, because some people, especially fat people, you know what I mean? Because we're in America, we got a lot of fats hanging around. I feel like that's the reason why a lot of people hate the summer. It's just because of like, it's seasonal depression, but it's like bright and fucking sunny out and you can go to the lake and you can go fishing and like drink all day or whatever and be fine. Um uh I think that's why people hate the summer. It gives them seasonal depression but in a different way. You know what I mean? Like being a real fat, and I'm still a little bit fat, but I wasn't as fat as I once was, you know what I mean? It's seeing the hot people going out with their fucking shirts off, going to the pool, drinking but not getting as fat as you are. I feel like that would be depressing. Like if you were a real big fat, like if you were like a chronic fat with no hope, like, even as fat as I've been, I was still, like, playing football and, like, going to the gym and stuff like that, so I wasn't, like, a true chronic I wasn't a true beanbag, you know what I mean? You know, I was putting on a front earlier saying I've become a beanbag. I don't know if I'm full beanbag, you know? But I guess beanbag is more of a vibe than it is necessarily a body type, you know? Like, being full beanbagged out, I've met some skinny beanbags in my life, you know what I mean? I've met some string beanbags in my life, or green beanbags. I've met a few of those in my life, so I think that's what being a beanbag truly is, you know? And I think I've embraced the beanbag life of just, all right, had a roommate scare. That's probably gonna happen more than once this episode. You know, I don't have my angle yet. I don't I don't have my angle on the door yet, so I can make the shot that I need to make. You know, I can't make the headshot yet. Um, but yeah, I have embraced the beanbag life. You know what I mean? If you have a gamer chair, yeah, you're maybe not full beanbag yet. You know, you haven't maybe made it to like one of like those big old beanbags. What do they call it? A love sack or whatever? No love is happening on that, dude. No. I could not think of a more depressing, or not even depressing, but just like complacent, you know, emotionless environment than a giant beanbag, dude. Like, I feel like if you laid down on a giant beanbag, you'd be like, you'd forget about love, you know? I think at the end of the day, but I haven't reached that full level yet. But I do have like a gaming chair with like a butt print in it, so I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close to full love sack status, but I'm not quite there yet. Not quite there, and I don't know if I want to be there. You know, but like I said, the two options are you Andrew Tate out, or you go full beanbag, or you find like your passion or whatever. But we ain't got time for passion. There is, it's a hard time to be passionate. You know what I mean? It's a tough time out there to like really care about shit. Because when shit's really good, you can be passionate about stuff because you don't have other things to worry about. And then when shit's really bad, you kind of have to be passionate about something. Um, but I feel like we're in this weird like gray area middle ground where it's sort of breeding dispassionates. I don't know if that's a fucking word, but you guys know what I mean. It's not, you're not passionate, but you're not passionate. I don't know. You're just, it's this weird gray fucking endless black hole that you just kind of float around in. I don't know. That feels like the general feeling of the world, or at least America right now. Obviously, obviously in like Zimbabwe or whatever. Yeah, those guys are pretty passionate about getting, you know, the next bag of rice or whatever they're focused on. But I think that's the feeling in America. You know what I mean? It's a general lack of passion combined with like intermittent like manic episodes. It's weird. It's not, is that what bipolar is, or is that borderline personality disorder? I don't know. It's one of those two fucking completely made up things. Um it's one of the BPs, dude. It's borderline personality or it's bipolar. I don't know which one it is. But that seems to be the general feeling in the United States of America, you know, especially amongst the young people, you know, because I feel like the older people, like millennials and Gen X, they still had like a period of life where they had, um, you know, there was like a light at the end of the tunnel for them, or they were just living in the light in the first place. You know what I mean? Like if you were born in 1970, you you grew up in a pretty good time, and it's also a very good time now. And I'm, you know, it's still very good compared to a lot of the other things that are going on. And I feel like that's where Gen Z kind of falls. It's this weird, you know, gray, murky, endless ocean that's like the waves aren't like super extreme or anything, but it's not a bright, beautiful, sunny day outside. You know, it's just like this gently rocking ocean with like a gray sky, and you're like, maybe there's going to be a storm, maybe there's not going to be a storm. I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. And then Gen Alpha, they're full on in a fucking Category 5 hurricane of just of just brain rot and political and social instability. They're being raised by the millennials who just don't have anything going for them. And that's the awful thing about the millennials. Like, at least Gen Z has like a nihilism, like an edgy, I don't know, just like a general, like I said, a gray nihilism going for them. But I feel like the millennials don't have either of that. They're kind of another, and I guess you could say that about every generation ever. They're sandwiched between these two things that are completely different. But I do feel like late millennials and then like Gen Z are kind of all in the same boat. And then like the early millennials, I don't even know what the fuck is going on with those people. That's one group that we got to get out of here. We got to deport the illegals, obviously. You know what I mean? Keep the Mexicans, get all the other illegals out though. And then also like the millennials that were born between like, I don't know, 1985 and like 1993. I'd say that group, yeah, deport them too. They're not gonna be making any contributions. You know what I mean? Like, their contributions are like dudes from New York City who dress like lumberjacks. Like, that's the major contribution of that group of people. That's what they had going on, is like guys who are computer programmers but also live in the woods, you know? Like general, like party line Democrat shit or party line Republican, but not just no real political opinions, just whatever. They're kind of like boomers, you know what I mean, where it's like whatever Fox News or CNN or whatever news channel, whatever they tell you to think, that's what you think. I feel like that's the type of feel that generation has going on. Um, but, and I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong about that, but I do feel like there is something boomerish about the millennials, and maybe that's because they were who they were raised by, right? For the most part, the millennials were raised by boomers, maybe some Gen Xers, but a lot of those Gen Xers do fall into maybe not like the years that the boomers were born into, but like the just the general thing they had going on. The life plan they had going on, where it's like, go to college or don't go to college, dude. You're gonna be able to buy a house anyway. You know. Um. Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes sense why the millennials and the boomers are so similar in many ways. Because they were raised with the same values. I don't know, dude. I'm just saying nonsense to fill the time. This is a bedcast. I don't know. I wish I did have some of like those bed thoughts that I have sometimes. Like when you're going to bed and you're not quite asleep and you're having thoughts that seem profound in the moment, and then you kind of wake up and you try to remember them, and then you maybe remember like one or two of the thoughts, and then you go, that was nothing. I was just I was just tired, and so I thought that thought was really smart, right? I basically became retarded for like 20 minutes before I fell asleep. And I thought that every thought I was having was like incredibly intelligent or profound or whatever. But some of those thoughts are entertaining sometimes, And that's usually what happens before I go to bed. Either I'm extremely horny or I'm having the dumbest thoughts that I think are really smart, which I guess it's kind of what being high is, smoking weed. Like, if you're one of those people that's like, I'm not ever going to smoke weed, but you're kind of curious about what it's like. It's like that period right before you go to bed, Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes sometimes it's convincing yourself you're autistic and freaking out about that for 2 hours, and then passing out for 12 hours and waking up even more tired than you were when you passed out. Sometimes that's what being high is, and that's probably like the reason weed has more of like a taboo around it than like alcohol does. Like I feel like alcohol tends to tends to bring with it a more consistent experience on like a person to person basis, right? Like if you're a dude who gets drunk and like you cry when you get drunk, that's going to happen every time you get drunk. But like with weed, I feel like there's people who sometimes panic, sometimes they're just watching some dumb like Seth Rogen fucking goy slot movie and they laugh at that. I feel like it's more inconsistent than alcohol. Like alcohol, people say, well, alcohol makes people beat their wives, and it's like, but only like a dude who was gonna beat his wife when he got drunk anyway, right? Like if I get drunk, I don't drink, but if I did, and I also had a wife to beat or a girlfriend to beat, you know, that's never gonna happen when I get drunk. You know, it's not the type of drunk that I am. You know what I mean? To just have a few fucking, whatever the new alcohol that came out is, you know what I mean? Whatever the new 90% alcohol that tastes like fucking Kool-Aid, you know? I feel like that's a new thing that happens every 6 months, is that they come out with a new type of alcohol that doesn't taste like alcohol, that it has like 10 times more alcohol than a regular beer, right? Like a while ago it was the beatboxes or whatever, and now it's the cut waters, and then the buzz balls. Every every few months, some, I don't know, scientist in China or whatever figures out a new way to get Americans to turn Americans into retards. And then I think it's one of the biggest innovations, that's going on. Or maybe it's like an American innovation. I feel like that's AI, I guess. I don't think it's getting, I think we've reached near a peak when it comes to AI. You know what I mean? Until the computers get significantly better, I don't think the AI is going to get any better. Um, but alcohol innovation is something that we're really dominating. You know what I mean? How, how to get someone drunk off of one can of, cut water or whatever it is, and have it taste like you're not drinking alcohol at all. Which, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's one of the annoying things about alcohol to me, where it's like it just tastes like shit, and nobody thinks it tastes good. I don't care what you say. The whole point of alcohol is to figure out how to make it not taste like alcohol. Um, and I don't think that's the case for weed. Like weed doesn't, yeah, it kind of smells funky, but it doesn't smell bad. But like alcohol, it burns your nostrils when you smell it, and it like burns your like mouth and throat and stuff when you're drinking it. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Someone's playing a very loud YouTube video or something like that, but whatever. You know, but that's what pisses me off about alcohol. It's that no one really enjoys the taste or the flavor of it. And the ultimate goal with it is to figure out how to make it taste not like the thing. It's like seafood sometimes I feel like feels like that way to me, where they're just like putting all like these spices and this butter and all that fucking bullshit on there to figure out how to make it not taste like seafood, or when someone's like, yeah, I like fish, but I don't like when it tastes fishy, and it's like, well, it's a fucking fish, dude. It's gonna taste fishy when you eat it. They can't accept the reality of the situation. I don't know, maybe there's something deeper there to explore, of people wanting to enjoy things like seafood or alcohol that they know they should enjoy, but in reality, they don't really enjoy the thing that much. They don't. I don't know. I don't know what kind of dumbass point I'm trying to make there, but it is what it is, man. It is what it is, and people aren't going to stop drinking, and I don't blame them. Dopamine feels good. No one's going to stop jerking off. And I feel like that's kind of happened with jerking off too, where people can accept the reality of like, if you're watching porn, you're watching a severely damaged woman, right? They'll try to make it something empowering, like OnlyFans or whatever. They'll try to be like, no, this woman, she doesn't work for a studio. She's her own independent, content creator, whatever they want to call it. But this is still a woman. clearly has had some severe issues in her life at one point or another. I don't know if it was an uncle or maybe it was the dad. I don't someone did something or someone didn't do something. And now we have this person whose brain doesn't work how it should work, uh, who is fine with making porn, right? That people try to, not feel bad about watching porn. And it's like, no, dude, this isn't, it's not a business that anyone, and I guess same with the men too, but I don't really give as much of a shit, dude. Like, and not because I guess it's just because with men, there's just kind of bigger, bigger issues at play. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I do feel bad for dudes that do porn, but there's also dudes that like m millions of dudes who die in war like every year. So I don't know. I feel like there's bigger issues there than that. And women obviously do have bigger issues too. Um, to I guess feel bad about them for, but yeah, I just don't feel as bad for the dudes because it's like, yes, is a dude who's doing porn, is that like not is that good for that guy? Obviously, the answer is no, but it could be so much worse. And I feel like women they they don't quite have like that high enough ceiling to go to, if you know what I mean. Like I feel like broadly across the world, yes, women are treated worse than men, but I feel like the man who has been treated the worst in history or whatever was treated worse than the woman that was treated the worst, if that makes sense. I feel like men maybe have it better, but there's also a lot of men who have it significantly worse than women have it, if that makes sense. And I feel like that's kind of why there's there's maybe not as much sympathy for men or empathy or whatever the fucking word is, I don't know. But because there is some men out there who fucking fuck shit up for everyone else. They destroy everything for everyone else. Um, and they have like these great, fantastic lives and like billions of dollars or whatever. And people will see that and they'll be like, well, fucking obviously men have it better. Clearly men have it better. But then there's kind of this other side to it, this other extreme to it, where it's like there's some guy who's starving to death in some trench somewhere who has like 4 bullets left in his gun, and he's either gonna have to like shoot himself or like try to beat 5 dudes to death. Right? There's that other end of the extreme, and on the bad end of the extreme, I feel like there's significantly more of those than there is on like the good end of the extreme, if that makes sense. Whereas with women, there's a lot more towards the bad end, obviously towards the bad end, but it doesn't go quite as far to the bad end. Um, I don't know. I don't know. That's just a very dumb thought that I had, you know. Um, but yeah, it's the bedcast, dude. All right, what do you fucking expect from me? I'm literally laying in a bed right now. I'm just stalling for time until I can jerk off, dude. Until it's until it's at least, I guess it is 9 p.m. right now. I guess 10, until it's at least 10 p.m. Then I can jerk off. You can't be doing that shit unless it's like unless you haven't jerked off in 4 days, then you can't jerk off before 10 p.m. I feel like if you're hitting it every day at like 3 p.m. or whatever, that's an issue. But if you're hitting it every day at like 10 p.m., then you're chilling. You know what I mean? But if you're on like you've been super busy or you just been holding it in to hold it in, um, then you could hit a nice 3 p.m.er, and that wouldn't be an issue in my mind. But if you're doing it every day, you know what I mean? Just like punching the clock at 2 p.m. or like noon, or like a morning jerker. I know there's morning jerkers out there, and I just don't. I mean, I guess I get why. You know what I mean? You wake up with a boner and you're like, fuck, I gotta deal with this. But I don't know. Usually it goes away on its own. After you get up and take your morning piss and you let out a 30-second fart, usually the bone dog goes away. But there is some morning jerkers out there. And kind of how I was talking earlier about like the 1985 to 1993 millennials. Maybe that's not the exact year, but or the exact, you know, year span of those types of millennials, but the feeling that that type of millennial gives me is like a morning jerker of just someone who is just like lethargic and lazy, but it is like content with that fact, that isn't like depressed about the fact that they're kind of lethargic and lazy. Um, and then obviously when you jerk off, it just you do get that post nut like depression, clarity, whatever you want to call it. But then after that, your brain's just going haywire because you don't have like that thing in place. You know what I mean? You don't have that ultimate motivation, the thing that you're trying to work towards. The the or maybe you're not trying to work towards it, but it's always there, right? Like when you're when you have it like jerked off for the day or whatever, y- y- you're maybe not like entirely focused on it, but it's always there. It's always that driving thing that's just like keeping you sharp, like mentally sharp, whether you're taking a test or just in class or, outside working or whatever it is, you still have that thing in there that's just like, it's this constant. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but you guys know what I mean. If you're a dude and you're listening to this, which I have to imagine at this point, it's all dudes, if there's anyone listening at all. Um, but you do have that thing, that constant it motivator. It's just something about having the nut in you. Something about having a little bit of nut in you. It keeps you sharp and it keeps you ready and it keeps you pushing, motivated or disciplined or whatever word you want to use. It's always there. Like, I'm dieting down right now, and if you're a dude and you've ever dieted down before, lost weight before or whatever, or tried to like, quit drugs, whatever it may be, you know that the second the second you let that thing go, the second you let that choppa sing, there's a certain amount of motivation or whatever it may be that like kind of drops out, and that's just not there anymore. Like if you're trying to lose weight, you know any dude, and if you don't know this, this is a tip for you. Don't jerk off until like right before you go to bed. Because if you hit that shit at like 5 p.m., then you're gonna be munching like crazy because you don't have that mental thing in place. That's just like the thing you're focused on, the thing that keeps you, you know what I mean? The thing that just keeps you, I don't know, that prevents you from getting distracted, is I guess the way I'll put it, you know, because you're too focused on it. You're too much like, how could I get to that nut, dude? How could I finally bust that nut? But I don't know. I don't know. I guess that's all I'm gonna do for this episode. Um, don't really have shit else to talk about. I've said and paused about 90,000 times in this episode, but I don't know. My roommate wasn't here, so I was like, fuck it. I gotta do something. You know what I mean? So, but I hope you guys have a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. Um, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. I'll just put this out tonight. Who gives a shit? But I'll see you guys on Monday for the a new episode or I new or whatever you call it. It'll come out. All right, see you guys. Peace.